Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's literally staring you in the face every single day, even if you don't always notice it. We're going to unpack this really fascinating core premise. Reality isn't just a movie we passively sit back and watch. It's something we actively live, interpret, and construct in our own minds. We aren't just detached spectators of the universe. Every single perception you have, it's actively shaped by your consciousness. I mean, think about it like this. Objective science is absolutely incredible, right? It can easily tell us the geological makeup of a mountain, its exact height, how many millions of years it took to form. But can it measure the overwhelming sense of awe you feel when you stand at the very peak? Science alone just can't fully explain what it actually feels like to experience beauty or love or even spiritual realization. Those experiences belong entirely to the domain of lived consciousness. Section 1. Beyond objective measurement. Section 2. The Western lived experience. Okay, let's dive into this by starting on solid ground with Western philosophy, specifically phenomenology. This was a movement founded by Edmund Husserl. Husserl wanted to look at conscious experience directly, and he had this simple but honestly mind-blowing insight called intentionality. Basically, consciousness is always directed towards something. Awareness is never just isolated. Whether you're staring at a tree outside, remembering something from your childhood, or imagining the future, your consciousness is constantly organizing and creating meaning. You don't just passively record sensory data like a video camera, you actively make it meaningful. And this flows right into the work of philosopher Martin Heidegger, who really grounded these lofty ideas in human existence, what he famously called being in the world. We aren't just detached brains floating in jars. Meaning emerges through participation. Think about it. You don't fully understand a hammer by measuring how much it weighs, right? You understand it by actually picking it up and building something. You understand a home by living in it. Reality is fundamentally relational and embodied. And this brilliantly illustrates our next step. Enter the poet and philosopher William Blake. He saw imagination as a genuine mode of knowledge. Blake believed that our ordinary, everyday perception is kind of blocked by our habits and conventions. But imagination acts as this bridge between just seeing something and actually understanding its profound significance. And to be clear, imagination here doesn't mean making up fantasies. It's a way of participating creatively in reality, unlocking dimensions that pure, cold logic just can't reach. Which leads us to a really fascinating contrast in Western aesthetics: beauty versus the sublime. Beauty is great. It delights us through harmony and proportion. But the philosopher Immanuel Kant pointed out that the sublime is a whole different beast. Imagine encountering a massive, violent storm, or standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon. Your senses are just completely overwhelmed. Your imagination literally fails to process the sheer scale of it. But Kant argued that this failure actually reveals the infinite capacity of your reason. The sublime shows us the limits of our physical senses, sure, but it also reveals the boundless greatness of the human mind. Section 3. The Indian Traditions Matrix. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it maps out our philosophical descent. We're shifting our focus to the east. We are going to walk down this ladder you see here, and slowly, step by step, we're going to drop the observer and the observed, stripping reality down to its absolute core. Section 4. Embracing subjects and objects. So we begin right at the top of our matrix with Kashmiri Shaivism. This tradition actually affirms both the experiencing subject, you, and the external object, the world. It says ultimate reality is an infinite self-luminous consciousness. So every physical object, every thought, every feeling you have, they aren't illusions. They are dynamic, creative expressions of a living unity in diversity. The knower and the known aren't separate things at all. They're just complementary expressions of one universal consciousness sort of playing with itself. Section 5. Dropping conceptual labels. Okay, before taking a full step down our ladder, let's take a half step into Buddhist epistemology. Here, we're looking at subjectivity with objects, but without our mental labels. They ask this great question: what is immediately presented to your consciousness right before language takes over? Before your mind judges a shape and labels it tree or mountain, there's this fleeting moment of pure, non-conceptual awareness. In that split second, reality is encountered directly. Concepts and words are great for communicating, obviously, but they can kind of obscure reality. True knowledge actually begins with that direct, raw awareness. Section 6. Dropping subjects. We've dropped our concepts, now let's drop the subject entirely with Yogācāra Buddhism. This is also known as the mind-only school, and they ask a truly radical question. What if the fixed you standing apart from the world doesn't actually exist? They introduce this idea of the storehouse consciousness. Basically, karmic seeds from your past actions gather in the storehouse. These seeds then condition all your future perceptions, your habits, your thoughts. And because of this constant flowing stream, the illusion of an independent, permanent ego gets built. You still experience an external world, but that permanent self observing it, it's really just a continuous stream of conditioned awareness. Section 7. Dropping objects. So, the crucial point is, what happens if we keep the subject but drop the object? Welcome to Advaita Vedānta. This tradition comes at it from the exact opposite direction. They use this really famous classic analogy: just as a rope might be mistaken for a snake in a dimly lit room, the world is only perceived as real because of our own ignorance. The objects out there only seem real due to illusion. The only ultimate unchanging reality is what they call the witness consciousness. It's this silent, pure awareness where all thoughts and objects arise and disappear. The objects aren't real. Only the witnessing awareness is for sure real. Section 8. The radical emptiness. And here we are, the climax of the explainer. We're stepping onto the final rung of our ladder with Madhyamaka Buddhism, founded by Nagarjuna. Here, we drop both the subject and the object through a concept called dependent origination. It goes like this. First, everything arises only through conditions and relationships. Second, nothing exists by its own independent essence. And so third, both the observer and the observed dissolve completely into emptiness. Neither you nor the object you're looking at has a fixed independent reality. It's all just a network of interdependent processes. And just like that, we successfully philosophized ourselves completely out of existence. But jokes aside, this emptiness isn't some dark nihilism. It's actually meant to be ultimate freedom from all conceptual extremes. Section 9. Becoming the reality. All right, let's bring ourselves back to the surface here. From Western phenomenology all the way down to radical Eastern emptiness, all of these traditions point to one massive takeaway. Understanding reality requires subjective realization, not just objective measurement. The world isn't just a random collection of detached facts. It is something we live, interpret, imagine, and ultimately become. Which leaves us with a final, pretty vital question. If reality is a subjective construction, what kind of world are you building right now? Take a moment today to really consider how your own consciousness is actively shaping the reality you live in. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.